Hi, this is Nicole Wall. This is my submission for the interview question portion for exercise 5.7 for CareerFoundry. The first question, what does the CRISP-DM methodology for data mining entail? What does data analyst do in each step? As a data analyst, I utilize the CRISP-DM, which is acronym for Cross-Industry Standard Process for Data Mining methodology as a structured approach to data mining, which encompasses 6 phases. The first phase is business understanding. During this initial phase, I would work closely with the stakeholders to understand the business goals and objectives driving the data mining project. The second phase is data understanding. As part of my role, I gather and assess the available data, identify any potential quality issues or limitations that may impact the analysis process. The third phase is data preparation. This crucial phase involves me in cleaning, transforming, and carefully selecting data to ensure the suitability for analysis. Addressing any data quality issues is incredibly important, with strong emphasis on documenting each step of the preparation process. The fourth phase is modeling. I would select appropriate algorithms and techniques to construct models that effectively address the project's objectives. Additionally, I develop a comprehensive test plan to validate prototype models, ensuring meticulous documentation of testing methods and underlying assumptions. The fifth phase is evaluation. Throughout this phase, I would evaluate models against predefined business goals, soliciting feedback from stakeholders and validation teams. Adjustments are made as necessary to ensure that models precisely meet specified requirements. The last phase is deployment. Upon successful validation, I oversee the deployment of models to deliver actionable insights that support informed decision making. Continuously monitoring model performance, I promptly address any issues that may arise, maintaining thorough documentation throughout the deployment process. Basically, the CRISP-DM methodology serves as my guiding framework, facilitating a systematic approach to understanding business needs, preparing data, building robust models, and ultimately deploying solutions that empower data-driven decision making. The second question, explain what needs to be done before you can forecast time series. In other words, what does time series analysis involve? The most crucial step when considering time series forecasting is understanding your data model and knowing which business questions need to be answered using this data. Time series analysis is a descriptive process that helps us understand the data at hand. The goal is to find out why the data looks the way it does by looking for patterns or trends in the data and trying to understand them as stationary, non-stationary, autocorrelation, and seasonality. And forecasting can be performed by making a model based on the historical data to predict the future values. The third question, discuss the main principles of data ethics as well as what companies or organizations can do to uphold these principles. Data ethic principles encompasses several key points. First is privacy. Individuals should have control over their personal data. Companies must adhere to data privacy laws, obtain consent for data collection and sharing, and implement robust data protection measures. The other is transparency. Organizations should provide clear information about data they collect, how it's used, and with whom it's shared. The transparency builds trust and allow individuals to make informed decisions about their data. Accountability. Companies are accountable for the data they collect and handle. They should implement measures to safeguard data integrity, confidentiality, and availability and establish mechanisms for addressing breaches or violations of data ethics principles. Last is equality. Data practices should not have any bias or discrimination. Companies must ensure fairness in data collection, processing, and decision making, avoiding practices that disadvantage any individuals or groups. To uphold these principles, organizations can develop comprehensive data ethics policies and procedures that align with regulatory requirements, and industry best practices. Organizations can provide ongoing training and education for employees to raise awareness of data ethics, principles, and compliance obligations. They can also employ technologies, so security measures to protect data from unauthorized access, breaches, or misuse. Organizations can regularly review and audit data handling practices to identify and mitigate potential risk or compliance gaps. They can establish channels for reporting and addressing concerns related to data ethics violations. They can also take swift and appropriate actions in response to breaches or incidents, including notifying affected parties and implementing corrective measures. By prioritizing data ethics and adopting proactive measures, companies can foster trust, mitigate risks, and demonstrate their commitment to responsible data stewardships. Fourth question. Imagine you're an analyst at a financial service company and you have some concerns about bias in the way a predictive model was measured. How would you raise your concerns with your manager? Make some suggestions for how to avoid measurements bias in the future. When addressing concerns about bias in a predictive model to my manager, I would approach the conversation with very specific and neutral information, providing detailed examples of where bias may have been introduced to the model. Following the discussion, I would send a follow-up email summarizing our conversation for documentation purposes. To minimize bias in the future, I would propose several strategies. First one would be multiple measurement devices. Implementing multiple measuring devices can help cross-validate data and identify discrepancies or biases in measurements. Another way is transparent testing procedures. Clearly communicate testing procedures to ensure transparency and accountability in the model development process. Another strategy would be qualified validators, ensuring that validators possess necessary experience and training to assess model accuracy, identify potential bias effectively. Another strategy would be regular review and updates. Continuously review and update scoring and evaluation processes to adapt to evolving data and mitigate the risk of bias over time. Additionally, fostering a culture of transparency and collaboration by seeking feedback from peers, leaders, and stakeholders can help identify and address biases that may have entered the data collection or analysis process. By implementing these measures, we can enhance the robustness, fairness of our predictive models, ultimately improving decision making and maintaining trust in our analytical processes. The fifth question and the last, explain the difference between regression and classification models in predictive analysis. When would you use one of these models over the other? Regression models are utilized when the goal is to predict continuous outcome variable based on one or more input variables. These models measure the relationship between quantitative variables, allowing for the estimation of values such as price, income, or age. On the other hand, classification models are employed when the objective is to categorize an entity into one of several predefined classes or categories based on set of input features. These models predict discrete values such as true or false, or spam or not spam. The choice between regression and classification models depend on the nature of the outcome variable and the problem being addressed. If the target variable is continuous and requires estimation, a regression model would be more appropriate. If the goal is to classify data into distinct categories, a classification model would be more suitable. Basically, the regression models are used for predicting continuous values, while classification models are employed for classifying data into predefined categories. This concludes my submission for the interview questions portion of exercise 5.7 for CareerFoundry, and this is Nicole Wall. Thank you.